Hi, my name is Debra R. Richardson of Debra R. Richardson LLC, and I work with you to help you clean up your vendor data, clean up your vendor processes so that you can pay the right vendor. Now, this week's vendor master file tip of the week is some vendor teams are collecting W-9s every year. But why? Now, I know that is not grammatically correct, but it is a very good question. So let's look at a couple of reasons why. And then at the end, I'm going to ask you. So, possible reasons, I have two that I can think of. And that is it's a good practice in case information from your vendor changes, right? Because we know the vendors don't always voluntarily reach out to us. But one other way you can handle that is do an IRS 10 check or really an IRS 10 match, which means you're going to do a bulk upload of all of your vendors and then only reach out to the vendors who didn't pass. Now, I know that doesn't give you information on address changes, but lots of times the address that is on the W-9 is not necessarily the vendor's remit address or the ordering address. It's usually just the tax address. Now, the second reason why is because some companies don't collect the W-9 at the time of vendor setup. Rather, they collect it at the end of the year so they can get ready for 1099 processing the following January. Now, you and I know that's probably not a good thing. It's a bad practice because now you don't have any leverage to collect the W-9. So if they don't give it to you, you can't say, well, we won't give you the payment or we will give you the payment, but we're going to withhold 24%. Your leverage is all gone, right? And some vendors, if they're small enough, right, don't want that income reported. So that's why you need to collect it at the time of. And then also, because the IRS requires the 10 before payment, not after payment. And if you do not receive the taxpayer identification number before payment, and you are required to backup withhold, or you're required to backup withhold for any reason for that matter, and you don't do it, the IRS will hold your company responsible for that backup withholding that was not done. Now, here are some best practices in collecting the W-9. And the first one is definitely collect it at vendor setup and get the 10 before the payment to verify the vendor is real. And then that way you won't get an IRS penalty for filing with that bad vendor legal name tax ID combination for your reportable vendors. And then also collect it when the vendor information changes. Now, technically, the IRS puts the onus on the vendor to send you a correct W-9 when their information changes, but we know what usually happens with that. You don't find out until something goes wrong. And so make sure you do collect it when any vendor information changes because they don't always realize that they need to let you know if their name changes or tax ID changes. Sometimes they'll only send in a bank account change or a remittance address change because they want to make sure they get their payments, but they don't know that you need to know other changes have taken place as well. So collect it, and you might just find more than just a remittance change, which is usually, again, what they'll reach out and tell you because, again, that affects their payments. Now, the next one is do an annual bulk 10 match to ensure the legal name tax ID combination still matches. And then also retain that W-9. And when you do that 10 match, take a screenshot of it. Save both of them wherever you save your vendor supporting documentation, whether it's on a secure drive or on the vendor record in the accounting system or ERP. Now, for those of you that are collecting vendor W-9s at the end of the year, and this was more so for those that didn't collect it all year, and now you're collecting it in time for tax reporting, I do have a blog post, and I am going to put the link to that blog post in the description, but it gives you some tips of how to collect the vendor W-9s before year end. Now, lastly, I do want to hear from you guys that are collecting the W-9s at year end or collecting them every year. Not sure why. I would love to hear if you're doing it, and if you are doing it, why you are doing it. All right. So if you'd like more information on how to improve your vendor process, please go to my website at deborarrichardson.com for free tools and resources to avoid fraud, regulatory fines, and just overall bad vendor data. So good luck, and be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell to be notified next Tuesday for the next Vendor Master File tip of the week.